This is HBR News number 459. Follow-up week, Theranos produces sentence. More on the Nashville Manifesto release, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treat. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of the absurdities so that you're not consumed by it. I am your host, Brian, and I am joined by Mike. Hannah is not here right now. We hope that she'll join us soon.
It's probably a tornado. Maybe she's dead.
Maybe there's just a lava flow. One of those.
I find myself saying that all the time these days. Maybe they're dead. Just loads of people are just randomly dying these days. Maybe everyone's dead. Maybe it's just you and me, Brian, and the rest of the human race is dead.
Maybe one of us is actually dead, and the other one is.
Maybe we've always been dead.
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting spin on the whole, we live in a simulation thing, and we're all just like brains in jars that are all hooked up to a big. So, which means we're basically just electronic impulses traveling through wires and sending images to each other.
Oh, we're all just one God imagining a dream into existence, and God just suddenly got bored and he went, oh, I'm going to wake up now. Fuck this noise.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, with all of that existentialism out of the way, we're waiting to see. Maybe Hannah will show up later. In the meantime, though, we do have a show lined up. I don't know if you want to add good or bad to it. I'm just going to say a show. There is content on the horizon coming. We're going to be discussing some new developments in some of the stories we've been covering before, like Elizabeth Holmes, of the former CEO, the disgraced CEO of Theranos, and her sentencing. You might remember the McCloskeys. If you don't, you will be informed on this shortly. Their case was expunged. More on the Nashville shooters Manifesto, and more still. So stick around. It's going to be a good time, and be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. This week's patron-only show, we're going to be looking at the clips from the last show I did with Allison. She asks that, the patrons become a part of, sort of helping us curate the content, I guess. So it's not bad. It's kind of fun or whatever. I'm still waiting for her to put videos out. But we're compiling things. And so you be sure to come join us in the patron show for that. And to do that, you have to become a Badger by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, where you'll be able to watch all the additional content. Plus, maybe get access to some things before they go live and things like that. And if you don't want to wake up one morning and find that we've been yeeted from the internet, then go to badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com to see where all of our content lives. All right, so it's just Mike and I today, but we usually do fine with that. So we're going to be looking at some stories. So let's get right into it. So first we have a follow-up on Elizabeth Holmes's sentence. So Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of the failed blood testing company Theranos, continues to serve her prison sentence for fraud, initially sentenced to 11 plus years in prison, which we covered on the show when it was announced. Holmes has had her sentence reduced by nearly 2 years due to good behavior, moving her release date from December of 2032 to August of 2032. What? No, that's wrong. It's got to be 2030, like 30, I think. She began serving her sentence at FPC Bryan, a federal prison camp in Texas, in May of 2023. Holmes's prison time can be further reduced through good conduct time and participation in programs such as the Residential Drug Abuse Program and those under the Federal First Step Act. These reductions mean she might serve just 66 months of her original sentence. Holmes's case has drawn significant attention due to the dramatic rise and fall of Theranos. The company, once valued at $9 billion, claimed it could revolutionize blood testing with minimal sample sizes. However, investigations revealed the technology was unreliable and the company was involved in fraudulent practices, leading to investor losses of hundreds of millions of dollars. Holmes was convicted of multiple counts of fraud in 2022, and Theranos was shut down in 2018. The reaction to Holmes's reduced sentence is mixed, with some noting the irony given the massive fraud and loss of credibility she caused in the medical and investor communities. Never mind that she got like a TV show made about her by was it like I forget the actress's name, Big Eyes, Amanda Seyfried, I think. So let I don't know, Mike, if you have any thoughts on this. I just thought it was a decent follow up.
I haven't. I wasn't here when you covered it last time, so I'm missing a lot of information. But I have to wonder how good behavior even affects your sentence when I think justice is supposed to be retributive or whatever, or is it consequential? Like, what does good behavior in prison mean? Does it mean you
not
haven't
shanking people?
Well, in her case, it means she hasn't fraudulently tested anyone's blood while in prison.
Yeah.
So how does how does not shanking anyone indicate that if she gets out of prison, she's not going to fraudulently test anyone's blood anymore?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's sad too because Hannah's the one who shared this story, so I think she had some words to say about it. But yeah, I mean, it's just like a little follow up. She's going to jail for a long time anyway, and I don't know that shaving a couple of years off is really a big deal or good behavior. And again, like this is basically white collar crime, right? So she's not in like a maximum security prison or anything. So it's not like there's plenty of opportunities to misbehave. I guess she could end up getting caught up in some other scandal because I think I remember her working with a guy that she also got involved with. I may be remembering this wrong. I apologize, but yeah, it was called The Dropout. That was the show, or maybe it was a movie. It was something on streaming networks that you could watch, and it was Amanda Seyfried playing this character, this woman. And I think it was spun. At least the marketing looked like it was like, this is like a girl boss show because she's like this extremely she's one of the rare female CEOs. So not a good look though, all things considered, But yeah, that's basically it. I don't really have much else to say. I mean, I guess we'll see if there's anything else that happens. Yeah, I think that I do remember one thing. There was a guy she was with. I think he was like, well, anyway, he was a coworker, and when they were going through the trial, she claimed that he was actually the mastermind, and that he had her in his thrall and used her, and that he's basically the one that should pay the penalty. But she was really the person behind it all. I remember her trying to play the victim during the court hearing. I do remember that.
Of course,
and that was like a big thing. Yeah,
that's standard procedure. Any given woman is in any given man's thrall. She's a CEO, but she was probably in the thrall of some homeless guy who she kicked in the balls one day. She was in Trump's thrall. Trump should go to prison instead of her.
Yeah.
And she and Hunter Biden can go party together as free citizens of the United States of America. Are we not talking about the Hunter Biden thing? I guess it's breaking.
I don't have it on the list but we could like give it a mention if we have.
There's not much to add to it either, other than my usual sort of black pill nonsense of this isn't good enough. It's all a sham.
It's not even like nobody cares about the gun charges.
Yeah,
that's like that's not.
They care about the fucking high treason, particularly when it comes to the big guy. Yeah.
In fact, the gun charges is probably like one that I'd be willing to forgive because we have the Second Amendment. I don't want anything to like make that harder. That's one thing that I'm willing to just let go compared to like you said, the high treason, the prostitutes, the crack, like the video, everything on the videotape.
Mainly the high treason. I'm
mainly
kind of fine with the crack and the prostitutes, to be honest. There's a little bit of small L libertarian in me that's like, Have all the crack and prostitutes you like. You're only hurting yourself. The high treason is kind of hurting everyone else. But, and it's not Hunter we want. It's the big guy. Whoever that is, I don't even know. Who the fuck is Peter Peter? Who could Peter Peter possibly be?
Anybody. Could be anybody. Well, anyway, let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. Do you know about the Elizabeth Holmes story and Theranos and all of that? And what are your thoughts on that? So let us know what you guys think in the comments. We're going to move on to the next story. I thought this was some good news. So you guys remember the McCloskeys, Mark and Patricia McCloskey?
Of course.
They were a St. Louis, Missouri couple who waved guns at protesters outside their home in 2020 during the Summer of Love. The couple had filed a request in January to have their convictions removed, and Judge Joseph P. White granted the expungement, citing the intent to give people a second chance if they have rehabilitated. Mark McCloskey has demanded the return of the guns seized during his 2021 guilty plea and has threatened to sue the city if they are not returned. The guns, a Colt AR-15 rifle and a Brico .330 caliber pistol, were part of the viral photo of the couple during the Black Lives Matter protests following George Floyd's murder. The McCloskeys claimed that they felt threatened by the protesters passing by their home and pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges, for which they were later pardoned by Missouri Governor Mike Parson in July of 2021. Despite the pardon, a judge ruled in December of 2022 that their firearms would not be returned. The couple had also appealed to the Supreme Court, which declined to hear the case. Additionally, Mark McCloskey ran for the Senate in 2021, but received only 3% of the primary vote.
Sorry, but...
Yeah, go ahead.
What the fuck is rehabilitated supposed to mean in this context? By the process of this pardoning, has it not been ascertained and confirmed that the McCloskeys did nothing wrong? So what is there from which to be rehabilitated if they did nothing wrong? I'm terribly sorry. I thought this was America. Are you not allowed to wave guns on your own property?
You should,
especially in the event that you have like a single trespasser, never mind an unruly mob of them. They didn't kill anyone. They didn't even shoot anyone. They didn't even fire a warning shot into the air. That would be a crime, a crime which Joe Biden has officially recommended, by the way, with a shotgun, no less. These guys, I mean, they didn't even wave the guns. They just kind of just held them. I guess the wife did kind of point the pistol.
She did, like
perhaps kind of menacingly,
menacingly
in the general direction of the aforementioned mob,
the angry mob.
But they both exercised reasonable trigger discipline. They did exactly what guns are for in a domestic context: brandish them so they don't have to fire them. It's just hippity hoppity, get off my property, fuck around and find out. It's the cornerstone of the American dream, goddammit. And if they didn't exercise their Second Amendment rights, there's every chance that one or more stragglers in that unruly mob would have indeed approached their property and begun, mostly peacefully destroying shit. And there's that famous clip of a couple of young guys filming one of those BLM mobs from their living room and giving them the thumbs up. And they were treated to 2 swift bricks through the window while they incredulously cried, "We're on your side! We're on your side!" Yeah, no, you're not. You're not.
Yeah, you don't realize.
You're Americans living in America. And that's exactly what those mobs were hell-bent on destroying. For its own sake. No one was ever on their side. It was never about race. It was never about George Floyd. It was never about the police. It was about chaos. Just a blind lust for power enacted through chaos. The issue is never the issue, people. The issue is always the revolution.
Yes, that's right.
The McCloskeys just wanted to grill. And they were presumably interested in keeping their windows unsmashed. So they did the least they could do to defend their property and maybe even their lives. So fucking rehabilitate my ass. Rehabilitate these nuts. Give them their fucking guns back. If anyone's proven themselves to be worthy of bearing arms, it's these heroes, these patriots. And yeah, while you're at it, give them Hunter Biden's guns. Pretty sure he still has some. He just conveniently forgot them somewhere. Probably absent-mindedly left them in a gas station bathroom. He did it all the time. Or on the reception desk of a local high school, along with a golf ball-sized rock of crack. Yeah, you want red flag laws? Well, you should have green flag laws as well, or just have green flag laws. Primarily have green flag laws. Government mobsters and their crime families should have their guns taken away. While you're at it, they should have their fucking cutlery taken away and melted down into a smelter and reassembled into assault rifles to hand out to patriots like the McCloskeys. And maybe you'll have enough molten metal left over for a cast iron griddle and give them another one so they can grill in peace and indeed in style. God bless America. I'm going to be there on Saturday, by the way.
Yay! Welcome back to the land of the somewhat free.
And please don't shoot me.
All right. So we just wanted to give a quick update on that. Let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. We're going to move on to the next one. But I did get a super chat, so I'm going to pop that puppy on the screen. Albernator Retro. Well, it doesn't show up. It's okay. Albernator Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says, Happy International Give the Badgers, the Badgies, a $5 super chat day. Catch up women most affected. All right. So thank you for that. And then we're going to move on to the next story. So we have another update on the Nashville shooter. I like how these things like wait a very long time before we get updates. It's almost like people forget about these things and then we hear about it. So
if it wasn't for Steven Crowder, we wouldn't have had those first couple of pages last year.
True.
Was it last year? It was.
Yeah, it was at least 6 or 8 months ago. A while back. Yeah. So another update on the Covenant school shooting. Over a year after the transgender school shooter Audrey Hale entered the Covenant school in Nashville and killed 3 adults and 3 children before being killed by police, do we now have more insight into her mindset? A local Tennessee media outlet obtained nearly 50 more pages of her journal/manifesto. In these pages, she expressed extreme anger at her conservative Christian parents, as well as her general hatred of whites, which, by the way, included herself. She believes she suffered undue harm as puberty blockers were not available to her as a child. She wrote about how she desired, above all else, to have a penis so that she could engage in sex with other women. These fantasies continued into real life, where she would engage in role play for hours using stuffed animals to simulate sexual situations. There is still an ongoing court battle between the parents of the Covenant school shooting victims and the court system to not fully release the rest of the journal/manifesto. Not that we need much more. I don't know that there's going to be like a twist in here, but yeah. So we've learned more, and I don't know, Mike. I don't know if you want to say anything to that.
Should we call her the Supreme Lady? Is that the equivalent of a certain someone we're not allowed to mention? Do you know? I wonder if Nashville is currently being adorned with any of those delightful rainbow crosswalks, those state-sponsored, taxpayer-funded rainbow flag monuments that are popping up all over the place at the moment. What with it being June and all, I wonder if any of the family or friends of the 6 people who were murdered, or the hundreds of people who were terrorized by what that emblem represents, have found themselves having to walk across it every day on their way to work, or perhaps on their way to school. Can you imagine that? Imagine if your kids had been murdered by, like, a Confederate separatist, and you had to walk through a parade of Confederate flags every day. Like, you can't even keep your head down and solemnly stare at the ground, because even the ground itself is radiating a technicolor reminder of the ideology that caused your family to get slaughtered. And if you violate that, I mean, even if you accidentally scuffed your shoe on it as you crossed it, you'd get arrested and charged with a felony, as is beginning to happen with teenagers on bikes and stuff. You've all seen the news. You all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The phrase "adding insult to injury" doesn't even adequately describe it. It's adding totalitarianism to mass murder. And these people have the gall to tell us that the rainbow trans flag just represents happiness and being yourself. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It very, very doesn't. It represents the literal opposite of being yourself. It's about being exactly what you're not, because what you are is a mistake. It's about being deeply and morbidly unhappy with what you are. It's about creating an artificial division between mind, body, and soul, and driving a wedge between them and hammering that wedge deep into your brain and your genitals. And we're way beyond the thin end of that wedge at this point. The whole thing, fat end and all, is embedded in our culture. And the blessed powers that be are doing nothing to stop it. On the contrary, they're just stripping away the splintered remains of everything but the wedge. And Audrey Hale is just a rare example of someone who has snapped under the pressure. By no means am I defending her or what she's done, but it's important to point out that the people falling for this cult of biological Gnosticism are indeed victims. They're just not. They're just not victims of heteronormative white supremacist patriarchy like their cult leaders are telling them they are. They are victims of the cult leaders in question. The same cult leaders who, when you criticize their evil ideology, will deflect those criticisms and accuse you of hating trans people. No, dickhead, we hate you! The trans activists. Yes. The fucking feminist scholars sitting in the ivory tower of your abominable laboratory of junk academia, taking in millions of innocent, soft-headed young people and turning them into ticking time bombs of brainwashed self-hatred. You've been doing it to young men and boys for generations at this point, teaching them to hate themselves and making millions of victims out of innocent boys, most of whom, vast majority of whom, only harm themselves, but maybe 1 in a million harms other people. But the difference is when young men finally snap and do something tragic and horrific.
Quit Discord, and I'll go back into it. F, not just me. Can you guys hear me? We should be here, not just me. I mean, it shows that I'm still transmitting, but for some reason, Discord did something. I'm coming back, Mike. Hold on. All right, can you hear me now? I'm sorry. I left. I dropped somehow.
Oh.
Okay.
How much
you were? I forgot where you left off, honestly. It was like a minute, like maybe 30 seconds, that you lost me. Maybe even 15 seconds. So, Mike, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
I'm sorry.
Good.
Okay. Something happened to Discord.
So yeah, it's like I was saying, what they're doing with trans kids now.
Mnemonic says it cut out, as you were saying, when men finally snap. So that's what you were saying.
Yeah, it's when men finally snap and do something tragic and horrific like these mass shootings. You'll blame it on their masculinity, but when you do the same thing to these emptied vessels you call trans kids, You blame it on anything but the transgenderism. Even when their extensive manifesto is the smoking gun, the actual smoking gun that has you banged to rights. Even when you have 50 pages of someone straight up confessing that your fucked up transgenderism led them to kill 6 people, you still don't blame it because you made it. You made the transgenderism. It's your weapon, your canvas, your finest art. So you find a way to blame masculinity again and white supremacy and heteronormativity and whatever. You just drive the wedge in even further, even when you've hammered the way through and it popped clean out the other end, and then you hammer it through someone else. I mean, words cannot express how evil this is. I'm trying. The human mind cannot comprehend how evil this is. And I'm doing my best, but I feel like all I could do is skate around the periphery of whatever black hole of unhuman skullduggery is going on here. Even the people who are doing this can't comprehend what they're doing. All they can do is lie and gaslight to us and to themselves. All they can do is invert reality, far beyond the point where they've forgotten what reality is. I mean, the word is demonic. It's not an exaggeration to call it demonic because, like I said, it's evil beyond human comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
And our governments are worshipping it. Our government schools and our government medical facilities are worshipping it. And they're arresting us for not worshipping it. So, I don't know. It seems like a good time for another afuera, does it not?
Wait, hold on. Let me get that up here for you.
Afuera. It doesn't just mean out at this point. It means demons out.
Be gone.
It's like a prayer. It is a prayer at this point. From now on, we should finish every prayer with afuera instead of amen.
Yeah, instead of amen.
At least it means something. And with that, I yield my time for the power and the glory forever and ever. Afuera.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I will add to this is that Audrey Hale here, she went to a Catholic school. She was raised by religious parents. And I think that there's like a trope that goes with that like these people tend to rebel because their parents are overly strict or whatever it is. But I'm not sure that's the case. I think that firstly, she was already troubled for whatever reason. Secondly, she learned about this stuff when she was in her 20s. So she was 28 years old when she went to the school and shot it up. She had gone to college, and that's where she learned about transgenderism and queer theory, and that's when she decided, this is what I need. Now, she was troubled before that because she was having these fantasies, or at least like this, and I think she was medicated as well. But I think that those are, I think that the issue is that what likely happened was we have someone who was vulnerable, which I do believe she was vulnerable, that was exposed to, this stuff in our schools and social media, etc. And while I believe that most people can be adults and like decide whether or not something is going to impact them, there are people who are weak to this stuff, and I think she was one of them. And it's just like Mike said, she, like, most of the time, probably most people can tune out the noise, or they know they can go to their parents that they can trust to help them navigate, this whole queer malaise that's floating around, that's trying to convince all of the young people that they're actually gay and that they should take hormone blockers or or puberty, I don't know, blockers, I guess. And I think that sometimes some people, they get into that. Maybe they get into it to different degrees, and I think she went all the way. And I think that she was conditioned, honestly, to hate this country, to hate her parents, to hate herself, to hate women and men, because there's a lot that she writes about that, and this is how it comes out. So I don't know if I can make the argument that speech leads to violence, but I wouldn't say that. But I do think that there is something very dark And the fact that they're trying to hide this from us, whether it's because of shame on the part of her parents, which is possible, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they don't want anyone to know how much harm this can do. And so I learned, I think it was like some medical organization recently did a press conference and they explicitly said that they do not recommend, like, what do they call it? Gender affirming care, I guess, is what is the latest buzzword du jour to describe it. And they're saying that this is not something they recommend. They don't think they should be done to kids. Then they never said that it should be. And I almost made that one a story, but I didn't do it because I know that, like, talking about, the transgender community or transgender population and the whole subject, it's a bit of a sticking point for some people. Like, and me personally, I just don't think it's the right solution for people's issues of identity or their gender or whatever. I don't think that that is the solution. I think that it requires a lot more time, a lot more introspection. And I think that, if you don't do that, if you just like try to affirm everybody, you're genociding people. Like, you're like literally, you're going to kill off all the gays if you convince them that they're actually the opposite sex. You're just going to kill them all off. And it's just, not good. So, but then you couple that with all of this sort of like anti, Western self-hatred, and you're just going to get destructive people like this. And I know that stuff happens. I mean, it happens in spaces where there are women and men. Look at all of the, these like satanic, and they're literally satanic. I'm not saying that like in a woo way. I'm saying that there are groups that identify themselves as satanic, and they engage in things like suicide rituals, mass shootings with like the goal of like getting themselves killed, or they try to convince other people to do it who they see as vulnerable, people who are struggling, with mental health issues, or they're lonely. Like incels are often preyed on, for example, and they get used and it's just to cause as much harm as possible. It's not even about doing it for some political goal or some activist goal. It's just like delighting in death and destruction. And that's just the reality. There are evil people, and they are using vulnerable people, children, to live out or just like add more evil to the world. So sorry for Audrey Hale. It's a shame, but like, if we should know what's in the manifesto. We should know why these people do these things, so that we are more like able to like defend ourselves, right? To protect people. So anyway, we should move on to the next story. And I don't know if my microphone sounds worse or better, let me know, because I have a number of filters on it, but I don't like, I know that the air conditioner comes on and it's really loud, so I'm trying to like, protect your ears from that background noise. Anyway, so let's move on to the last story. So originally I was going to cover this thing about Trump, this rumor where I guess they were saying that like somebody, like could have gotten the case thrown out because of they leaked something about the jury or whatever, but that turned out to be fake. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. So instead, I got this other thing, which I think is related. It's about social media as well. And there is there is some interesting things about this phenomenon called love bombing. You guys heard of love bombing, correct? So love bombing, you never heard of it, Mike? Love bombing?
No, it's a new name for a concept I think I'm familiar with. I will get into that.
Well, yeah. So love bombing is like it's a term associated with, normally it was associated with dating, but now it's recognized by the Crown Prosecution Service as a tactic used by domestic abusers. It is a form of coercive control, a psychological abuse method that manipulates victims into questioning their self-worth and autonomy. Perpetrators shower their targets with excessive affection, gifts, and attention to establish a deep bond and dependency. Once this connection is formed, they withdraw their attention, leaving the victim confused and desperate to regain the abuser's approval, thereby creating a cycle of emotional abuse. So I wanted to, but here's the thing about love bombing that I wanted to talk about. I think that this article, I'll read the rest of the write up here. This article is talking about love bombing in a dating situation, but there is another kind of love bombing that I think is a lot more how do I put this? It's a lot more prevalent, and it's a lot more ever present online, and it's not between like, you know, a couple. It is like more of a woman thing, and I'm going to get into that in a second. So um love bombing involves overwhelming someone with attention and gifts, which are then withdrawn to manipulate the victim. The CPS now includes it as a recognized tactic in cases of coercive control. Signs of love bombing: excessive gifts, constant compliments, over communication about future plans like marriage and children. The abuser's neediness are common signs. Victims often feel the relationship is too good to be true. The impact of this form of abuse leaves victims feeling confused, fearful, and trapped. It creates a dependency that makes it harder to recognize and escape the abusive behavior. Public and professional insight experts highlight the insidious nature of love bombing, stressing that while it may appear romantic, it is a calculated manipulation tactic. Reactions and insights. Professionals in domestic abuse advocacy, such as Rebecca Goshak from Solace Women's Aids, emphasize that love bombing is manipulative rather than romantic. Social media has amplified awareness of this phenomenon, with the love bombing tag gaining significant attention on platforms like TikTok. Legal authorities like CPS Chief Crown Prosecutor Kate Brown stress the importance of understanding and prosecuting coercive behaviors, including love bombing, as part of a broader domestic abuse case or abuse cases. By raising awareness of love bombing as a form of abuse, authorities and advocates aim to help victims recognize the signs early and seek the necessary support to break free from such manipulative relationships. So here's what they miss. So this is what the article talks about. Love bombing is something that especially young girls do to each other on the internet all the time. And I think that it is where young women get a sense of, like, it distorts their view of reality. So like girls will constantly tell other girls how great they are. They'll say, you're a 10, I'm a 10, we're all 10s. You know, you deserve the best. I just saw there was a viral video of this girl on TikTok saying that she wants a man, like that she should have a man with blue eyes, a trust fund, 6 feet tall, like all that. And that all, you know, and they'll tell other girls that that's what they deserve. I think that it's harmful because this is where you get these women online, especially young women that are, you know, maybe they're average in attractiveness, maybe they're overweight, maybe they have like other issues, but they're told like overwhelmingly over and over that they're perfect and everything else. And it actually it doesn't do a good job of preparing them for the real world. And I think that it ends up doing a lot of harm. And a lot of times the people engaging in the love bombing, they are not doing it for those women that they're doing that to. They're doing it for themselves. So they can say, look at me, I'm such a good friend because I support my friend unconditionally. And I think that, you know, when we talk about oftentimes when the media talks about online abuse, I don't know how else to put it, like online negging or whatever, they almost always frame it as something that men do to women. And it is, and no matter what it looks like, it's always framed as something that men do to women. And it's always only negative, right? So I think that what gets missed is that, first of all, and I've said this many times, social media is basically Call of Duty for women. They are constantly engaging in intersexual competition, and that means criticizing each other. I mean, we've even seen it happen on the Senate floor. I don't know if that, like, if social media did that, but like, you know, what was it, like Marjorie Taylor Greene got into it with AOC and some other woman whose name I don't remember, and they ended up getting into like all kinds of personal attacks. So yes, that happens, and it happens most of the time. Women who experience online harassment experience it from other women, almost like the majority of the time. But there's another aspect of it too, which is the love bombing thing, which I think also does its own kind of harm. I don't know if you guys agree with me when I say that, but this is something that I see. And what it does is I think it sets these women up to fail, because it gives them the idea that they're that like they can do no wrong. They like men don't do this. You know, I was talking about it with Lindsay. We were walking the dog, and she was telling me how she had been love bombed when she was younger as well. And I was like, yeah, I don't even know what that's like because men don't do that to each other. If anything, it's really hard to get compliments from men because they feel like you have to earn it. And I think in a way it's a good thing. I don't know. So because I would rather have to work for something. What were you gonna say?
Well, men don't do it to each other. No. I mean, I have a similar but parallel interpretation because when I was reading through this description of what love bombing is, attention, excessive gifts, constant compliments over communication, neediness. Is anyone else thinking what I'm thinking? We have a word for it. Simping.
Yes.
It's just not to the letter and the spirit, the word for word definition of simping, except it's being framed in this case as a form of abuse. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I would have thought a simp is closer to a victim of abuse than a perpetrator of it, but essentially it's neither. No one's forcing you to simp. It's something you do when you're weak and stupid. But by that same measure, it's not abusive to stop simping. I mean, the narcissistic cunt who's taking advantage of you will almost certainly call it abusive the moment you stop simping. It's just $5, but that doesn't mean it's the case. It's actually, funnily enough, it's actually rehabilitation. Actual rehabilitation. So when you finally manage to kick a bad habit that was destructive to yourself and enabling to a narcissistic cunt. If anything, it should be commended and celebrated when you stop simping. And I suppose it's hardly surprising that a Crown prosecution service would consider it a crime to rehabilitate yourself from a simping habit. It's not the simping that's the crime; it's the not simping, or the no longer simping once a woman has become accustomed to such a standard. It's something very often spoken about in divorce courts and framed in that way. And much like if you let a woman live in your house and eat all your food and use all your shit, take endless advantage of your good nature, and you do this for long enough, the government will declare you common law married. This is an actual thing in Canada and several other countries. And now you're legally required to let this woman continue squatting on your property forever. Kind of like if you discover an endangered species in your backyard. You're not just forbidden from killing it, you're forbidden from not doing everything you can to keep it alive, even while it's eating your face and giving you a brand new variant of Lyme disease that's unknown to science. Yeah, again, this is what governments do. They fucking hate you. They own you and they own everything you do, but at the same time, they resent you for being alive. And they will only put up with your wretched existence if you work yourselves to death on their behalf. All I can really do is state the obvious. Just don't simp in the first place. I mean, it's a no-brainer from every angle. You will not be thanked for simping. You will only be laughed at and disrespected and trodden all over like the doormat you are. And yet you will be legally prosecuted as a domestic abuser if you ever stop doing it. It's a tarp, gentlemen, and it's not even a subtle trap that's carefully buried under a layer of dirt in the woods. It's a giant neon sign in hoop earrings and booty shorts, singing an ear-blasting siren song of "I am a fucking trap," and by trap I don't mean trap.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, sometimes it is a trap. By all accounts, traps are the worst kinds of traps. They are considered the very top of the endangered species list, despite their currently ballooning population. But whatever. Funny how it all comes together, isn't it? Between all the stories, demons everywhere. Well, and somehow I need to be here to tell people not to simp for demons. I have such a weird job. Well,
Yeah.
it's a weird world. Why wouldn't I have a
Yeah.
weird job? You're listening to Honey Badger Radio, folks. Please leave a comment and share this video because sharing is caring.
Subscribe and all of that. I was just gonna say another way that this like love bombing thing manifests too is like on social media. One of the ways that young girls, are groomed into transitioning to being boys is that they are love bombed every step of the way by like adoring, people who don't really know them on social media that shower them with compliments to get them to do things like, cut off their tits and take hormone blockers. And it happens. I've seen videos of women that will go, young girls, like girls, at least like post-pubescent girls that will go through the process because there's so many people cheering them on every step of the way. And like the more let's say criticisms there are of trans surgeries and hormone blockers and gender affirming care, the stronger the love bombing comes, because the girls that involve themselves in this, they feel like they're really fighting against some system. So this can have disastrous consequences, and this they're not talking about that. They're just talking about the men. And with on that side, yeah, I agree with Mike. Like it's basically just simping, which is like it comes from, I think, a place where those men think that this is what women want, but yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. Again, don't mess around with demons. All right. So let me look at your super chats. I did get a super chow as well. So Meredith G gave us $5. Thank you, Meredith, and says HBR News 459. Love bombing is associated with narcissists by itself. It's not abuse. Love bombing is the way an abuser ensnares a victim and gets the victim addicted to the abuser. But the other part of the abuse is isolation, then devaluation. Then you love bomb the victim again to hover them back into the abuse cycle. Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's it, but my point ultimately is that for one, it's not to the benefit of the person being love bombed. For two, it's often to satisfy the abuser, the person engaging in it, but it's not always for their personal satisfaction, like they're trying to get something out of that person, but a lot of times it's just so that, well, also so they can feel like they're good people. Virtue signaling as love bombing, essentially. Oh, hey, Hannah. And
hey, I'm sorry I'm so late.
That's okay. It's all right. We're like wrapping up here, so but it's all good. I was having some technical issues in the beginning anyway. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Was it a tornado?
No, it wasn't a tornado.
Okay.
It was an overabundance of courtesy.
Sounds like love bombing.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, by the way. If you got 2 cents on the matter while you're here.
Yeah.
Love bombing?
Yeah, love bombing as abuse. So there was an article talking about how love bombing is being recognized by the this is like a British thing, right? The Crown Prosecution Service as a tactic used by domestic abusers, a form of coercive control, a psychological abuse method that manipulates victims into questioning their self-worth and autonomy. But while that can happen, I was making the point that it's not gendered, and that it's also used by women as another kind of like, social aggression against other women by essentially love bombing them to get them to do things that are actually self-harmful, right? Like transitioning, for example. So if a girl starts acting like a boy, then they get love bombed by other girls on social media into essentially just to see how far she'll take the transition. So
love bombing is usually talked about as a part of the behavior engaged in by somebody who is narcissistic. Yeah. So you have a period of time where they're abusive, like overtly abusive, and then you have a period of time where they're like reverse abusive, where everything is beautiful and everything you do is right, and everything about you is good, and yeah, I can see here the too good to be true thing. as far as like if somebody just comes at you with it out of the blue, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to have the same effect. In fact, I think most people would see it as disingenuous. I just don't see how this would be the same as in an abusive relationship with somebody that, you know, has the kind of freakouts and anger issues and other forms of abuse that they're engaging in. Is this something that they're recognizing as part of a relationship with a narcissistic abuser, or is this just something that they're accusing people of?
No, they're saying that it's basically going to be recognized by the crown as a tactic used by domestic abusers.
I see.
As a form of coercive control.
Only when men do it, obviously.
Oh, yeah, only when
men do it.
Yeah.
Where actually narcissists are more likely to be women. That's great.
Like I was saying, when men do it, it's colloquially called simping. Now I come to think of it, when women do it, we colloquially call it bunny boiling, or at least it's the precursor to the bunny being boiled. You know.
You mean like Fatal Attraction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't think simping is quite the same, because that's something that's a consistent behavior usually. But yeah, I know that's hardly a thing that only men do. In fact, I've experienced this from women, and it's pretty scary when it happens, because you know what's coming afterward. You know that it's like being on the uphill of a roller coaster. You kind of know that either they're guilty from the last trough, and they think they're going to lose you, or they're preparing for something, or you're going to fuck up and you're going to get it anyway. And after about the third or fourth time they do that, it becomes so predictable that you could almost tell them what they're going to say and do next. And that it's not just controlling and manipulative. It's torture. It feels like waiting. It's waiting for the other shoe to drop, because you know the other shoe is coming, and the whole time it hurts, because you know the other shoe is coming. It's really, gosh, I don't even know how to explain this. Because you'd think you'd walk away, right? You'd think you'd be like, oh, well, obviously, this person is behaving this way. This person is treating you this way. You should leave. But when you know that behavior, and you know that the abuse is coming, you also know that to everybody else, it looks like the person you're mad at is the sweetest, nicest, lovingest person, and you're just being a jerk. You're the asshole because they just gave you a bunch of gifts, or they just showered you with a bunch of attention, and now you're treating her like a bitch.
Yeah.
Not because she is one in the moment, but because you know she's about to be. And I don't know, have you ever had a situation where you want to approach an animal, like a dog or a cat, that you're not sure if they're gonna bite?
If it's gonna be hostile, yeah.
Yeah. It's like that, except often for days at a time. And then as soon as it does happen, it's at that point they've been nice to you for days at a time, and when they're not, it's usually not in front of other people. It's usually in a private situation, and suddenly, you're vulnerable, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and when a woman does it, it's that much more. It cuts that much deeper, right? Because if you describe a man doing it, people have sympathy for you. If you describe a man doing it, people recognize that behavior is not normal. But if you describe a woman doing it, it's like, oh, well, she was being so nice. What'd you do to piss her off?
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know. It's funny. It's always projection. Um. All right. Well, that
Did,
was. I mean,
did you
go ahead, Mike.
did you have anything to add about the Elizabeth Holmes situation, Hannah? Because
Yeah, you shared the story.
Yeah,
Brian and I couldn't think of anything to say.
Oh,
Yeah.
the reason that I shared that story is this: like, it's not that those things that can be used to reduce her sentence are a bad thing, but people complain about those all the time when men benefit from them. And here we see a woman benefiting from them, and she can participate in all those different programs. And it's actually, it's not necessarily good or bad that she can get her sentence reduced by participating in these things. What's good is if she actually has you have to prove you have a drug problem in order to get into the drug program, for instance. So she actually has a drug problem. Maybe that contributed to her behavior in this situation. If they put her through this residential drug abuse program, and maybe that will prevent her from doing this kind of thing again. The fact that she's famous for it's probably going to be the thing that most prevents her from doing this kind of thing again. But a lot of times when a man does these things and then he gets up for parole, at the end of the time period that he's required to serve, his minimum time period that he's required to serve, because they'll have an amount that you can't reduce your sentence beyond this much for certain crimes, right? The people that testified against him, his if there's a psychiatrist that testified against him that particularly feels that he didn't that he didn't deserve that, or if the crime victim comes in and testifies against him, like in his parole hearing, the parole board can still decide not to let him out early. And here they're talking about this like it's just cut and dried with her. If she does these things, she gets this time off. So I kind of wonder if it's treated the same for women as it is for men. And I think the other aspect of this is women are more likely to be just compliant with stuff like this to get out. And it's probably one of the reasons why women serve less time is when a man gets into prison, if he's facing violence from his fellow inmates and stuff like that, that may interfere with his participation. They may make him participate in something that he feels is not true to himself, like if he's accused of a sex crime or he's accused of a violent crime of another sort that he didn't do, and he got convicted of it anyway, and they put him in this type of program, they'll order him to confess to his crime, and it fucks up his appeals. So he can't just go into court and say, well, I didn't do this, and I want to appeal because here's my exculpatory evidence, because then they can say, well, you confessed in therapy. And so it's cut and dried, no more appeals. So it's not gendered, but it is gendered. And it's not something that's supposed to be only available to women, but it's something that is geared more to get to toward the way women are than toward the way men are.
All right.
So if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm glad that you came in so you could point that out. All right, so I got to do another super chat, and I think we're done with, which is good. I mean, it's a short show, but what are you gonna do? So I got a super chat from Albernated Retro for $2 Canadian. He says Del Delphine. I think you meant Belle Delphine. Del Delphine talked about women harassing her. Yes, she said that she got the most hate from other women. I was making that point about this again. We've said this many times on the show that women engage in sort of like, you know, what's the word? Reputation destruction, and they tend to engage in intersexual competition online. And so if a woman is getting more attention than from men, that's usually what it is about, then her other women will attack that woman for it. And you see this like
oh yeah, you can ask Allison too, about that.
Yeah, we like look at when Pearl, you know, makes a post on X and she says you know, something like, oh, you know, these women are old and they shouldn't, like, you know, older women don't look as good as younger women, or whatever her claim is. Doesn't really matter. And then she gets bombarded with a bunch of older women setting her pictures to prove that they're not, you know, less attractive. Yeah. So like they just immediately take the bait, and then they get so that's what you see, right? So I think that it is like there is this idea that especially with the internet, there's an attention economy. And all the women are trying to get a piece of it, unless of course they're like happily married, and that means that they're kind of indifferent. So
even women that are happily married sometimes do that, and it's really bad too, because women will deliberately give each other bad advice. I've had women deliberately give me bad advice that I knew was bad advice when they gave it, and it's like, you're trying to get me to make this guy never want to talk to me again, and not trying to help me. And that's a actual regular thing. Oh, that looks really good on you. No, actually, it doesn't. It makes her look like, you know, an almost 6 feet tall banana.
So if you want a woman to send you nudes, just accuse her of not looking as good as a younger woman naked, and then
that doesn't.
Like, I'll show you, and then you'll get some nudes.
You're already a 10. Everyone's a 10, so you're already a 10, babe. You should cut your hair short. You should cut your hair short and dye it blue, and go on a course of Lizzo.
Yeah.
I only recently watched that latest South Park episode, and yeah, they smashed it as always.
Oh, the Lizzo thing? Oh yeah, so good.
You should take Lizzo and just don't give a fuck about your weight. It's the best weight loss program.
I didn't see the episode, but I saw the video of Lizzo watching it for the first time.
To it,
holy crap!
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah. All right, well, let's head into the after show. We're gonna be looking at some magic clips to help Allison pick out some videos that she will eventually upload. And to join us, become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, where you'll be able to watch all the additional content and hang out with us. And there's lots and lots and lots of content there. There's also lots of community things going on. And we'll hopefully see you guys there. So again, that's feedthebadger.com/subscribe to join us. We're also doing our monthly fundraiser. That is feedthebadger.com/support. And if you want to send a message after this show closes out, we'll be sure to read it on the next one, on the next show that we do, which should be tomorrow. That will be feedthebadger.com/justthetip for that. So I'm going to wrap it up there. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. Links to the show notes are in the description. Once again, thanks Hannah for coming. Even if it's the last minute, you still had a gem of wisdom for us. And with all that said, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News. And we'll talk to you all in the next one.
Are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.